We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
welcome along to NUFC Matters, another episode of Those Were the Days with George. Which year are you taking us back to, George?
2014, 2015.
Over to you, George.
Just described by most of the pundits as a year of upheaval, so you know what you're in for. As always, I start off with what's happening elsewhere outside the football world and music. Top records, Timber by Pitbull, £1 Million Girl by Fuse OJG, Control by Matrix, Drunk in Love by Beyonce, and Do It All Over Again by A.L.R. Fox. Now, some of those, I can't even admit to hearing them, never mind knowing what they were like, but they managed to get to the top and stay there for a while. Then in the pictures in the cinema, Guardians of the Galaxy was the big seller, which Interstellar was the episode that was winning all the money and the views. Lego Movie, Edge of Tomorrow, Gone Girl, and Birdman was the only one of that lot that they've actually seen. So it was all sorts of things happening elsewhere, and it puts the interesting thing for me is we're now into an era where there's a lot more people out there who remember things that were going on. And at the football club, well, average attendance was still up to about 51,000. When you reckon the dross that Ashley was pushing our way, the fans stayed loyal to the team. Not so sure. In fact, I'm sure that's where the saying "support the team, not the regime" came from. I'm sure. And of course, Pardew was our manager at the start of this season, with Steve Stone and John Carver as the coaches. Colaccini was our captain, and leading the line and top scorer was Papi Cisse. And it's worth just a quick look at the movement in terms of players who came in. Alios Perez from Tenerife, Jack Colback from Sunderland, Sam de Jong from Ajax, Remy Cabella from Montpellier, Emmanuel Riviere from Monaco, Daryl Jamat from Feyenoord, and Darlow and Lascelles from Nottingham Forest. So they're all names that people will recognise even now, never mind then. And going out, well, other names that went on to make good careers. James Tavernier, look at the career he's made at Rangers in recent years. Maltavino went to Gijón. Matthew Debussy went to Arsenal. Hatem Ben Arthur's contract was terminated. Tragic in my view. We could have harnessed the skill in that man. We could have had a star in my hands. Yanga Mbawi, Jack Anick, the young goalkeeper, was released. Alan Campbell released. And Jonas Gutierrez released. And Remy Street released. Jonas Gutierrez is tragic in the sense that people did forget that he at that period in his life he was surviving prostate cancer, and the reward he got from Ashley was his contract terminated, which just about for me signifies what sort of owner we had at the time. So let's get into the football. Let's get into the football as usual. Huge spattering of friendlies at the beginning before the season started. And of course, we're in the Premier League, the Capital One Cup, which is the League Cup, and the FA Cup. And first friendlies, Oldham Athletic, and then Sydney FC and Wellington from down under, Sheffield Wednesday, Malaga, Schalke 04 from Germany, Huddersfield Town, Real Sociedad. So quite a mix of friendlies to get the season off to a start. And our first league match, of course, was Manchester City. It was a game to look forward to because they were being tipped already to be up there with the front runners, whereas we were getting very few acknowledgements of where we would be, other than a mid-table team. I think is how people were describing us by and large. So the first game against Manchester City is 51,000 at the game, and at home, and it's a good football game, as most of the games Manchester City are. But it was clear that they were a class above, and no surprise in the first half when Silva, the dangerous forward, played in the centre forward role, but he played right across the front, really elusive character. And 38 minutes, he made it 1-0, and they went in at half time 1-0 up. Second half, Newcastle come out with a bit more spirit and had a go at City, and for long periods were pressing City. But there was always the threat of that breakaway, and sure enough, it came right at the end when Aguero broke away through over the top ball, and Aguero broke through and scored the second goal to give them a 2-0 win. And that goal's timed at 92 minutes. So we'd hung on, but it really was hanging on. In terms of the team we put out, Krul, Jalmat at fullback, Williamson, Colaccini, Dummett, Colback, Anita, Sissoko, Cabela, Gouffran, and Riviere. And the substitutes, interesting names as well: Hedera, Elliott in goal, Stephen Taylor, and Abid as the other person on the bench. And Manchester City, Joe Hart in goal, Clichy, Demi Chalice, Company, Colavaro, Fernando, Torre, Nasri, Jokovic, Silva, and Zeko. Zeko was the big centre forward who's still playing in Italy, I believe. It good game, but a one that we lost, and it was no surprise that we lost, really. They were a terrific side even then, and threatening to do all sorts of. Interesting thing about the match is that I remember being there, but I don't remember it being a particularly rough match. And yet City had 5 players booked: Silva, Demichelis, Kolarov, Company, and Fernando. And we had Jamat booked, the fullback. But I don't remember it being a particularly rough game, which is interesting. Because normally when there's that many booked, it's they're kicking spots off each other. Match number 2 is the away game to Aston Villa. And we have an unchanged team to go to Villa. And the Villa team is Guzan, Shasoko, and Hutton at fullback, Vendres, Var, Delph, Westwood, Richardson, Agbon, Lahore, Veyman, and Zogua, our old friend from Newcastle, Charles and Zogua. Interesting game. But a game where they could have played another 90 minutes, neither side would have scored. There were just no serious threats on the goal. Decent crowd, 31,000. Well, decent for Villa, but 20,000 short for us. But nonetheless, a decent game. But just no sign of anybody hitting the back of the net, and 0-0 at half time, and went on the second half in an even more dreary way to become 0-0 at full time, and a fairly dreary 0-0. But once again, when you look at the detail of the match, 4 Villa players booked, and Williamson booked for us, and yet again another game which I don't remember being recorded as a dirty game or a rough game or anything like that. But a 0-0 and not a very impressive 0-0. We're now drawn away in the League Cup, the Capital One Cup, I think they call it, and we're drawn away to Gillingham. The Gills are our stepping stone this time, and interesting that Pardew sends a team which is nearly the full team, but he brings in Hyderia and Abid off the substitutes bench to go into the team to give them a run out, but and includes young Aarons in the forward line as well. So 3 changes from what we had in the league game. Gillingham, a team of that level of the league, some good old players, names people will remember, and typical of what happens at that level if they can get them. Bywater, for example, the goalkeeper, was a goalkeeper for many years. Hessenthaler, a really tough, skillful midfielder. Dak, another dangerous attacking midfielder, and Pritchard, a dangerous centre forward. So they had a good side, but sadly on the wrong side of 30, most of them. And but nevertheless, give us a good game. We didn't get this easy, and they in fact helped more than they realised, because the only goal that was scored was an own goal by their defender Egan, their fullback, and in 25 minutes. So, but we huffed and puffed for the rest of the game and couldn't add to that one goal. So we scraped through to the next round of the Capital One Cup, League Cup, on a 1-0 victory. But sighs of relief on Tyne's side, because we had so many banana skins in this competition to go through at all as a first time was quite a relief. So we're back to the league and a home game against Crystal Palace, and we've got back to the full side. The only changes is that left back Haidara kept his place after the cup game, and Pardew didn't drop him. So we had Krull, Jamat, Colaccini, Williamson, Haidara, Colback, Sissoko, Cabela, De Jong, Gouffran, and Riviere. And on the bench we're seeing Obertan and people like that, and Stephen Taylor, Paul Dummett, and Elliott. Crystal Palace, some interesting names. Speroni, who they got from Middlesbrough, and Mia Papa, Dan, Delaney, Kelly, Punchin, Shedneck, Ward, Bolassi, Shamak, and Gale. And of course, Gale is the Gale we eventually bought and brought to Newcastle United. Dangerous goal scorer then, and remained so for a long time. An interesting game. Played it first half hour at breakneck pace. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And indeed, having mentioned Dwight Gale, on 1 minute, he made his presence felt by scoring the first goal, and got the nerves jangling in the Gallagher corner. I remember that quite visibly. However, just before half time, or 10 minutes before half time, Jamat, the fullback, scored a rocket with which he was capable of, and made it 1-1, and that's how they went in at half time. After that, they play didn't slow down at all. If anything, both teams went for it and turned it into an interesting game. And in 48 minutes, Punchin, the dangerous midfielder, clever midfielder, scored on 48 just after the half time started. Second half started. 48 minutes, it was 2-1 to Palace. And on 73 minutes, young Aaron's cutting in from the left, and he'd come on as a substitute for Gouffran, coming in from the left, the rocket shot into the bottom corner, and we had 2-2. And then everybody thought, well, we'll get a winner now. 88 minutes, we thought we had it. Williamson, who scored one of his rare goals, and a header from a corner, which is predictable with a big defender like Williamson. And we thought, well, it's ours. But then we hadn't banked on the skill of Lewis Saha coming off the bench, and for Howard Gale, and snatching the equaliser on 95 minutes. So that's how close it was to the final whistle. And but an entertaining game. Sadly, a draw where we should have had a victory, but nevertheless, a very interesting game. We then moved to Southampton, an away game at Southampton. The Saints just now and again have a habit of turning us over. And of course, on the front of that programme is Fraser Forster, who used to be our goalkeeper. We send full team to Southampton. Krul, Janmat, Colaccini, Williamson, Haidara, Colback, Anita, Cabela, Sissoko, Gouffran, and Riviere, with Toyota and Perez and Amiobi sitting on the bench. Southampton, Foster, Klein, the fullback, Fonte, Alderweireld, Bertrand, Cork, Schneiderlin, Davies, Tadic, Long, and Pelly. And of course, Long, a dangerous little centre forward who had a habit of scoring against Newcastle. And they on the left had a lad called Pelly, which was interesting, but he was also a good player. He wasn't as good as the real Pelly, but he certainly was good. And in fact, on 6 minutes, he showed us how good, and he scored the first goal. 19 minutes, he scores the second goal. So go in half time, 2-0 down. And we give them something to think about immediately after the half time whistle. But then Southampton come back and Cork scores. And then on just over 90 minutes, Schneiderlin scores, makes it 4-0. A very, very depressing result for us, because we really were never in this game when it really should have been a game we were at least equals with Southampton. But they actually turned us over very nicely, and much to depression. 29,000 in the stadium for that game, and then we're back at home for Hull City. A game we should win. Hull aren't doing anything special, but we haven't so far either, and get off to a dismal start. I mean, unchanged team for us. Hull have got McGregor, Davies, Huddleston, Hernandez, Livermore, Diami, Jelovic, Dawson, Robertson, Elmon, Hamady, and Quinn. a good team, but an aging team, and not one that should have been a big danger to us. But they were. From the off, the whole seemed to want to go for it, and so it was 0-0 at half time. But it almost immediately after the half time kickoff, second half kickoff, Jelic scored a peach of a goal and made it 1-0 for them. And then just to rub salt into the wounds, the Army scores a peach as well on 68 minutes, so they've got a 2-0 lead. And people in Gallagher Corner certainly begin to get really restless and wondering where we're going to even get in the game. Well, with somebody like Papi Sissi in the team, you've always got a chance. And he came on for Riviere, and showed what a dangerous strike he was. On 74 minutes, he scored one, and then on 87, he got the equaliser to make it 2-2, and that's how it stayed at the end. But it was disappointing that Hull were able to take us apart the way they did in the first half, and we didn't seem to have any answer to it. Again, another game where lots of bookings, Colaccini, Sissoko, Cabela, and Amiobi for us, and Robertson and Aluko for them. And yet, another game you couldn't say was a dirty game or a rough game, but people were getting booked. I suspect more for fiddly things like kicking balls away and that kind of thing, rather than foul play. So the next game is the Capital One Cup round 3, and it's an away tie to Crystal Palace. And having had the experience of having a tough game against them at home recently, we go with some trepidation. Pardew makes one big change, and that is Elliott comes into goals for Tim Krul, and Jack Annick goes onto the bench, gives Krul a rest. And then Jalmot, Colaccini, Stephen Taylor, Dummett, Abid, Colback, Obertan, Armstrong, Amiobi, and Riviere. It's a team that a mixed team for the cup, but Palace have got almost the same team as Drew with St James's, except Hennessy, the Welsh goalkeepers in goal this time, and McCarthy, a dangerous midfielders in the side. Other than that, it's the same team that we played, and it's quite an interesting game. Both sides seemingly going for it, and within 25 minutes, Palace get in the lead because they Howard Gale is pulled down and gets a penalty and gets up and scores it. So we're 1-0 down in 25 minutes. Then on 36, Riviere gets one of his rare goals and makes it 1-1. We get to the second half of what was 1-1, and almost immediately from the kickoff in the second half, we get another penalty with Obertan being brought down on one of his long runs, and just inside the box. And again, Riviere steps up and takes it and scores number 2. So we're 2-1 in the lead, and everybody thinks, well, we should be able to hold on to this against these, but Palace substitute called Kiaki comes on, and just before the final whistle, 90 minutes plus 2, it says in the notes, this guy scores an equaliser, so it's 2-2, and everybody's thinking about replays and penalties, of course, but they hadn't banked on the fact that into extra time, Paul Dummett comes on and scores one of his rare goals for Newcastle on 112 minutes and makes it 3-2. And everybody goes home happy that we're through to the next round without a replay. But I think it would have been penalties anyway. But it was a sigh of relief that we were able to get a win in this competition and take it a step as far as we'd been for quite a long time in the League Cup. And again, people booked Bannon for them, Hydera, Abid, and Elliott for us. That's the goalkeeper, for wasting time, no doubt. But also Abid booked the second time on 100 minutes and sent off altogether, which makes our winning goal that much more sweet by Dummett. But we get through to live another day in the League Cup for a change. Next game is a away game rather to Stoke City. Now Stoke, a team we should be having very little bother with, but what we should have and don't do in football is on the same things. Krul's back in goal, and the team's back to what we'd expected. Krul, Jamat, Williamson, Colaccini, Dummett, Tiote's in the side. Goalbacks and Sissoko, Cabela, Gouffran, and Riviere. Stoke City, mixture of old and new. Begovic, goalkeeper, been around a while. Bardsley at fullback, Shawcross, Whelan, the dangerous midfielder. Diouf, always a pain in our side. Charlie Adam in midfield, and a dangerous pen. Moses, who they got from Crystal Palace, and of course the centre forward, none other than Peter Crouch, who had come to them, and not the best of football games. It's kind of stuck in midfield most of the time, but if there is any danger, it's coming from Crouch with these height from dead balls and corners and all the rest of it. And it's no surprise on 15 minutes. Well, the same Peter Crouch actually puts Stoke in the lead 1-0, and it stays that way till half time. And in fairness to Newcastle side, they did have a go in the second half, but couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And so a depressing 1-0 loss to Stoke, because we shouldn't be losing to teams like Stoke with good enough to be beating them. And the next game is that's on the Monday night, and then the following Saturday we have another away game, the Swansea, and they're struggling as we are at the wrong end of the table with no prospect of no hint of any of the pundits thinking anything of Swansea. In fact, tipping them for relegation, most of them. And our team's unchanged. Krul, Jamat, Colaccini, Williamson, Dummett, Colback, Tiote, Sissoko, Obertan, Sissy, and Gouffran. Sissy is back from injury, so he's back in the side in the hope that he'll do something for Swansea, of course, a good football side and a mixture of old and new, as some of these teams are. Fabianski, of course, is in goal, and he's still playing for West Ham as West Ham's reserve goalkeeper. Richards, Fernandez, Taylor, Key, Shelby, Sigurdsson, Dyer, Routledge, who used to play for us, and Bonnie. Bonnie, a dangerous forward who we flirted with in the transfer market, if rumours are true. But it was an interesting game. Bonnie, having mentioned him, scores on the 17th minute a beautiful goal to put them 1-0 in the lead. Just before half time, almost the last kick of the half, Papi Cissé makes it 1-1, and we come out into the second half. And of course, with the Magpies in their side, ex-Magpies, you would expect one of them to do something. And it was Wayne Routledge who did and made it 2-1. And it looked like that's how it would be, because we were under the cosh a little bit. But with Cissé in the side, he just needs a sniff a goal. And that's what he got on 75 minutes, and he made it 2-2. And it was a good... It backs to the wall a little bit for Swansea, because we really had a go, but they used their experience, and I've got to say that the in times like that's when you see the skill of somebody like Shelby coming out loud and clear and tormenting us a little bit. But a 2-2 draw, which was a nice change of attitude, because we're sitting at the wrong end of the league at the moment, which is quite worrying. And then the next Saturday is a home game against Leicester City, and we send out same team, an unchanged team, and Leicester come with their array of talent, a mixture of new and old. Schmeichel in goal, Morgan, Moore, Kunchelski, Cambiasso, Albrighton, James, Drinkwater, Schlupp, and Ulloa. A good footballing game. Leicester playing tidy football, but we're slightly ahead of them on pace and giving them something of a rough time, with Obertan and on the right and Gouffran on the left, causing them all sorts of problems. And it's no surprise in the second half when it's one of those players, Obertan, who outpaces their defence and puts us 1-0 in the lead. And that's the way it stays till the end of the game. Perez came on and Haidara came on as a substitute, Kubela for Gouffran, and that just sort of cemented the victory, because we weren't certainly going to give it away, so a nice 3 points and a sigh of relief, I have to say, from Gallagher Corner, because we're at the wrong end of the league completely. And the next game is another game against away game against Spurs, and we go to White Hart Lane with some trepidation, because our form hasn't been brilliant, and an unchanged team. We see Gouffran, Obertan, the flyers on the wings back again, and Perez is on the bench. It's getting more involved as the weeks go on. Spurs team: Loris, Dyer, Kabul, Vertonghen, Rose, who we acquired during the Bruce era, Capo, Mason, Lamela, Eriksson, Chadi, and Adebayor. Adebayor, of course, is the ex-Arsenal player. A good football game and end-to-end stuff in the first half. No surprises to anybody when Adebayor, who's given our defence quite a bit of trouble. No surprises when he put Spurs in the lead on 18 minutes. However, we hold firm and not going to give anything else away, and get to half time still 1-0. After the half time, second half started, we changed slightly the team. Amiobi came on for Obertan and Cabela for Anita, and that made quite a difference. It meant that Amiobi was giving the Spurs defence a bit of trouble from dead balls, so it was no surprise on 46 minutes when Sholas made it 1-1, and we thought, well, let's hang on to this draw, but hang on wasn't what we did. We actually had to go for it, and Perez scored a beautiful goal on 58 minutes to take it 2-1, and that's how it stayed until we got to the final whistle, a 2-1 away win, which was hailed greatly by the Geordie nation, because we'd not been playing very well up till now, but certainly did in this particular game. So it was 2-1 win at Spurs, and we're starting to sit in the middle of the league rather after 2 victories. Suddenly we're up in the middle of the league, and there's one of the goals at the game. But a good football game, as Spurs had a reputation for playing good football. We now go to the next round of the Capital One Cup, the League Cup, and as luck would have it, drawn away to Manchester City. If you're going to get drawn away, one of the last places you'd want to be going to is Manchester City. But there we are, we're drawn away, and it's a full team except they call it the managers giving Elliott a run out in goal instead of keeping Krul there, and he brought Obertan back in, but added Adam Armstrong in place of Riviere to give him a run out, and it's a good game. We're playing good football as they are. Manchester City, Caballero, Sanga, Dimachilis, Malanga, Kolarov, Milner, James Milner that used to be ours, Torre, Fernandino, Silva, Jotlovic, and Zeko. Almost the same side that turned us over on the first day of the season. Well, young Aarons is on the left side of our attack, and on 6 minutes scores a beautiful goal, a dribble and a goal, and we're 1-0 up, and that's how it stays till half time. City try their hardest, but they can't get the ball past Elliott, who's having a particularly good game. Gets to half time at 1-0, and we come out the second half and defend quite stoically because City are really having a go now. And then on a breakaway and on 75 minutes, Adam Armstrong and Aarons between them that used their pace to get round the back of City and lay on a shot for Sissoko on 75 minutes, who makes it 2-0. And surprise, surprise, that's how it stays until the end of the game. So it made yet even more progress in the League Cup to go in with this 2-0 victory away from home. And good victory it was as well. Pardew has played some really good football. So we're making progress in a way in which we hadn't in the League Cup for a long, long time. The next game's a home game against Liverpool in the Premiership. It's always going to be an interesting game with Liverpool, and we've got an unchanged. Well, it's not unchanged because Krul comes back into goal for Elliott, and the Liverpool team is Mingaloy, who they got from Sunderland, of course, Johnson, Moreno, Lovren, Skirtle, Gerrard, Allen, Henderson, Coutinho, Sterling, and Balotelli. Very strong Liverpool team, and we can expect a tough game, which is exactly what we got. End-to-end stuff in the first half, but nobody could get the ball in net. Krul's having a blinder, and Mingale for them is similarly keeping everything out that goes his way. So 0-0 at half time. Immediately after the half time whistle, we see Newcastle having a go, which is refreshing. And a couple of times they could have made progress, except for the hitting the woodwork. Then 73 minutes, and Alios Perez shows his class by turning Liverpool inside out and slotting home a beautiful goal on 73 minutes. And that turns out to be the winner. So we get a good victory in the league and sticks us firmly in the middle of the table, thank goodness, because we're looking over our shoulders all the time at the moment, which is not where we want to be. So then we're away to West Brom. West Brom, another team with a reputation of being a good football side. Unchanged team for us. West Brom, Foster, Wisdom, Dawson, Lescott, who they got from Manchester City, Poganoli, Dorrans, Mulambu, Morrison, Brunt, Anichebe, and Biherano, who was being regarded as the find of the season. He was tearing the Premiership up with some of the games he was playing, and lots of people were looking at him with the possibility of buying him, particularly the big clubs. But he stayed with West Brom. I believe we looked at him, but didn't actually make a bid. So we have a good opening 45. We're not going to lie down because we're the away side. We really have a go. And on 45 minutes, just before the half-time whistle, Perez shows his class and scores a beautiful goal to put a 1-0 in the lead at the break. After the break, well, we're not giving this up. We're having a go, and it's end-to-end stuff. Both teams having a go, but us particularly. And it's no surprise on 62 minutes from a corner that Colaccini gets one of his rare goals and makes it 2-0 for us. And people are thinking, well, can we hang on for this to the end? But they didn't need to worry, because not only did we hang on, it was more likely we would be the ones that scored. And that's how it went right to the end with a beautiful 2-0 victory at West Brom, which everybody was delighted with, unbelievably so. And again, Sticks were in the middle of the league, well away from the looking over our shoulder at what was happening below, which is where we'd been most of this since the start of the season. Then we go home to a home match against QPR. QPR are the bookies' favourites to be relegated, so we shouldn't have much trouble. What we should and shouldn't do are two different things, particularly if you're a Newcastle fan. And QPR, a team of all-stars, but ageing all-stars. Rob Green, the former England goalie, Anua from Manchester City, Dunn from Manchester City, Corker, Youn, Barton, who we know, Joey, Sandro, Henry, Fur, Zamora, and Austin. Zamora and Austin, two dangerous forwards. Yes, a bit long in the tooth, but both good, dangerous players. After a number of years, Austin was quite often in the papers in this area that we reporting that we were looking at it, but he never ever came our way. And our side unchanged, and Perez hanging on to his the strip, having gotten a team and scored goals, and Sissy back on the bench, having come back from injury. So we're playing quite well, but QPR aren't going to give this game away. They're really, really having a go and defending very stoically, and goes 0-0 at half time. Second half, we up the pace a little bit, and Cissy is substituted, and Adam Armstrong goes on for Perez, and Gouffran goes on. So three pacey players going on, and they give QPR something of a bit of a run around. And it's no surprise on 78 minutes when the ball arrives at Sozoko on the edge of the box, and he nicely plants it in the far corner, and we're at 1-0 in the lead. And the one thing QPR don't seem to be able to do is to get out of their own half. They're defending so stoically that they're a one-dimension team in as much as their defence is keeping them locked in their own penalty area. And so we end up with a nice 1-0 victory, again, pushing us beyond middle now. We're starting to climb towards the top half of the league, and that's very gratifying. The next game is an away game at West Ham on Saturday. Now, West Ham, a different kettle of fish to QPR. West Ham are being talked about as possible title chasers, cup winners, all that sort of thing. Whereas we still aren't. We're still being talked about as a mid-table side. Elliott goes in for Krull, who's picked up a bit of a knock. Otherwise, it's an unchanged team. West Ham, Adrian, Jenkinson, Cresswell, Tompkins, Collins, Noble, Coyote, Downing, Amaltefino, who used to be ours, Jarvis, and Carroll. And we have a dangerous side in West Ham. They're playing good football, and they're upsetting a number of people in the league, to the point where pundits are thinking that they may be contenders. But despite a good first half end-to-end stuff, nobody can hit the back of the net. After half time, we get to 56 minutes, and Cresswell is a dangerous defender at set pieces, shows how dangerous he can be from a corner, and heads in the first goal of the game on 56 minutes. But after that, it's two teams determined not to lose. Straightforward as that, I think, is how to describe it. So West Ham hang on to their 1-0 lead till the end, and we come home with the consolation of knowing that how well the team had played, and we grateful for the point in some ways. The next game is an away game at Burnley. Burnley aside, another of the sides that they're talking about being down at the bottom end of the league. So we should at least have an opportunity here. Our team is Elliott stays in goal because Krull's still injured. Pardew brings Cisse in for Riviere, and I think most of the fans were hoping that Cisse would stay in as well. But Burnley are at us straight away at Turf Moor. Quite clear they don't want to lose this match and think that we're there for the taking. And in the first half hour, it looks like we might be. And indeed, their dangerous winger Boyd, midfielder rather, Boyd, scores on 34 minutes to make it 1-0 at half time. And it's troubling that we don't seem to be able to make a mark in the game at all. But going 1-0, it's not got any worse. But then after the second half, it's clear that we've decided to have a go, and exactly that's what happens. So we see some good end-to-end stuff from both teams. Now they're able, apparently, to hit the back of the net. But it's no surprise when the one that does hit the back of the net is Cisse. And the 78 minutes, he makes it 1-1, much to the relief of the Geordie faithful. And it could have been more, because as soon as he got on, his pace troubled the Burnley defence to such an extent. It's a pity he didn't get another one. Anyway, a 1-1 draw. The Burnley team's a strong team. Heaton and a right back, a name that we know very well, Trippier, Keane, Shackwell, Ward, Boyd, Marnie, Jones, Arfield, Ings, and Barnes. And interested to see Trippier's name in that side, because he's our current manager just mentioned the fact that he was at Burnley at the same time as Trippier was there, and had known and thought a lot about him since that time. Anyway, we end up with a 1-1 draw, which is great. Keeps us sitting nicely in the middle of the league and not looking over our shoulder at relegation anymore. Next game is a home game to Chelsea, and we got to be on our mettle for this. Chelsea are strongly tipped to win the league. and are playing with incredible skill. And in fact, up to this particular point, they hadn't lost a game. That's how good they were, and sitting way out in front in the league. And the game gets off to a brisk start, both sides having a go, but neither able to hit the back of the net, which is frustrating. But on the other hand, Chelsea being who they were, we're glad to see that they're not giving us the runaround. And indeed, it's an even Steven game, end-to-end stuff without anybody hitting the back of the net. 0-0 at half-time. Shortly after the second half starts, 57 minutes, Papi Cisse just demonstrates that what a goal scorer he is and makes it 1-0 to Newcastle. And then, lo and behold, 78 minutes, he doubles the lead to 2-0. And everybody's thinking, wow, this is something, beating Chelsea. And it looked like that's how it was going to stay. But you guarantee with a centre forward like Didier Drogba in the side, he came on and as a substitute, and on 83 minutes made it 2-1. And after that, it was backs to the wall for Newcastle, because Chelsea really had a go at getting an equaliser, but they couldn't do it. Our team virtually unchanged. Chelsea team: Courtois, Inovic, Cahill, Terry, Azpilicueta, Fabregas, Mikel, Willian, Oscar, Hazard, and Costa. And Drogba came on for Willian as a substitute and scored the goal that they got on 83 minutes. But an incredible victory, particularly, as I say, Chelsea were top of the league by a mile, and every pundit worth their salt was saying that they would beat us at St James's Park. Well, for once we proved them wrong. Next game is the away game at Arsenal, and another game which we got to mind our P's and Q's, because Arsenal, a team that's playing well and being talked about as possible champions along with Chelsea. But we got the young Anik in goal this time, because Elliott's now injured, as well as Krull, and otherwise an unchanged team for us. And Arsenal, Szczesny, Bellerin, Debussy, used to be our Debussy, Mertesacker, Gibbs, Flamani, Cazoria, Oxlade-Chamberlain, names still playing, Alexis Welbeck, a name that we know, and Giroud, who's another one who's well into his 30s and still playing, and still a dangerous centre forward. And having mentioned that name, it's worth recognise it. On 15 minutes, he makes it 1-0 to Arsenal. They're giving us a bit of a runaround in the first half. And we think, well, got to get hold of this second half, and looks like for a while that we do. And then suddenly on 54 minutes, when things look as though they were quieting down, Cazorla makes it 2-0. On 58 minutes rather, Giroud again makes it 3-0. Then Perez comes back with a wonder goal to make it 3-1, and Cazorla makes it 4-1 with a penalty on 88 minutes. A game that we're really given no chance with, and that forecast was absolutely right. We were never in with a chance with this game. The Arsenal really took us to the cleaners. And the team was Szczesny, Bellerin, Debuchy, Mertesacker, Gibbs, Flamini.
Okay, George.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the substitutes on the Arsenal team. include Sol Campbell, who came to us, and he's in the news currently telling the world he should get a knighthood, which I found an interesting piece of news. That he thinks he should have a knighthood. My God, how people think so much of themselves. It's unbelievable. Anyway, we got a real thousand off Arsenal, and sits us still in the middle of the league, which is fair enough. Then we go to the next round of the Capital Cup. It's the quarter final, and unfortunately drawn away yet again in this cup. It's a familiar tale even now. At Spurs, and well, we're in for a real difficult time. From the off, it's all about Spurs. Young Annex in goal for us because the senior goalies are both injured, and young Woodman's on the bench as the reserve goalkeeper. And 18 minutes, Bentalab, the Spurs, dangerous Spurs winger, scores the first goal on 18 minutes, and we hang on to 1-0 at half time, and it is hang on because they're really giving us a run around. And almost immediately after the second half kicks off, Chadley scores the second goal for Spurs, and then young man by the name of Kane comes on and scores a beautiful goal, a beautiful header on 65 minutes, and then the really dangerous forward who was on the bench called Soldado comes on and 70 minutes makes it 4-0. So we're getting a real runaround of Spurs in this game, and we just aren't in it. We really are given a 1,000 by Spurs, which is a bit disappointing. But however, that's 2 games in a row we conceded 4 goals, which is never a nice thing to do. But that's the Capital Cup ended. That's the League Cup finished and done. But at least we had a decent run, which we haven't had for quite a while. So come to the Sunday, the 21st of December, and we got a home game against the Mackhams, our first derby match. And we can't buy a win against them for nothing. And so everybody's hoping that we'll at least at home we should be get a win. Well, it's typical derby, all end-to-end stuff and lots of hard tackles and quite a few bookings. And our team is still, I got Anik in with Jalmat and Stephen Taylor, Colaccini, Dummett, Chiodi, Colback, Amiobi, Sissoko, Gouffran and Perez. And Sunderland, Pantilimon, Virgili, O'Shea, Brown, Coates, Catamole, Johnson, Larson, Gomez, Wickham and Fletcher. And they're not, I mean, they're in the same boat as us. They're at the wrong end of the league, almost shoulder to shoulder with us. So it's going to be an even game by any means. But being a derby, anything could happen. Well, it looks like it's going to be a 0-0 and lots of hard tackles. I mean, the bookings on our side, Colaccini, Chioti, Colback and Dummett. On their side, Coates, Wickham, O'Shea and Catamole. All 8 people booked, which shows the flavour of the match. But it looks like it's going to be a tame 0-0. And then a certain man called Johnson, who's not the favourite player of any era on Tyneside or Weir side, scores a cracker of a goal. You've got to admit it was a cracker of a goal, and gives them the victory, which is very sour because we don't seem to be able to touch them at the moment. And again, shifts us to just below the middle of the league, where we really don't want to be. And of course, having lost that game, where's the last place you'd want to go after 2 4-goal defeats and a derby defeat? The last place you'd want to go would be Old Trafford, Manchester United, because they too are being talked about as possible league champions. Chelsea have it in their own way at the moment, but Manchester City are thereabouts. And Manchester United are thereabouts, and so we go to Old Trafford. Well, it's another hard slog. The 75,000 faithfuls getting a taste of Wayne Rooney as we did. He was almost untouchable in this game for us. And 23 minutes he scores, 36 minutes he scores, so 2-0 at half time. And then add grist to the mill and I pour oil on the fire. Van Persie, who was a skillful player, adds the third on 53 minutes, and it looks like it might be another thrashing. But we managed to dig in and hold them off and keep it at 3-0 till just before the final whistle, when Asios Perez goes down in the box and Papi Cissé scores from the penalty spot to make it 3-1 as a consolation. Manchester side, even familiar names now to people: De Gea, Jones, McNair, Evans. Evans is still playing. Valencia, I think Evans is still playing for Leicester. Valencia, Carrick, that's Michael Carrick, who's the Middlesbrough manager now. Rooney, Mata's still playing on the continent. Young, Van Persie, and Falcao, and that was a good Manchester side. Some good football from that side, and some dangerous players. And their bench was people like Lindegaard on the bench, who they could bring on really to torment us as much as anything. We did try. I mean, we didn't give it in, but we were never really in the game. And so, in fact, in some ways, 3-1 loss was a bit of relief, because it looked at one stage it was going to be another 4-0 or worse, 1,000. So we come home to the next home game is Everton. And believe it or not, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight losses and let in 4, 8, 9, 12, let in 12 goals. And Everton come to St James's Park and there's 52,500, absolutely full to the brim for the team. And I just can't hold up my hand to fans who, even after all of that, are supporting the team, and 50 a full house actually for Everton coming, who weren't particularly special at that time. In fact, they were doing very little better than us. So we go out with Annex still in goal, Jalmat, Colaccini, Williamson, Dummett, Perez, Sissoko, Tiote, Colback, Gouffrin, and Sissy. Couple of changes, but nothing unexpected. And Everton come with Joel in goal, Coleman, Distin, who used to be ours, Alcaraz, Garbett, Baines, dangerous fullback Baines with free kicks, Gareth Barry, of course, who was the ex-Villa stalwart, McCarthy, McGeady, Eto'o, and Coney. Eto'o on his wrong side of his career, but still a very dangerous player in our class of football. And well, it turns out to be quite an interesting game, end-to-end stuff. Dangerous forward. Coney, the left winger, scores at 5 minutes, and it's looking bleak for us at first. But then on 34 minutes, Papi Cissé pops up and slides the ball in from a corner and makes it 2-1. We get one. It makes it 1-1 rather, and that's how we get to half time. After the half time whistle starts, we get some good play from our forwards, and it's no surprise when Azio Perez scores a nice goal on 51 minutes and makes it 2-1. And that looks how it's going to stay. But surprisingly, in some ways, there's a corner and the ball's bounced around like it's in a bagatelle and lands to Jack Colback, who, without flinching, volleys into the net to make it 3-1. So it looking very comfortable. But then on 84 minutes, Milanares, their dangerous player that comes off the bench, makes it 3-2. And the last 5 minutes for Newcastle are backs to the wall because Everton really have a go. McGeady and Coney and Lukaku comes on as a substitute and really giving our back four a bit of a thousand. But 3-2 it stays, and we get a good victory, which cements our position in the middle of the league. Now it's notable for something else that this happened to be the last match of Alan Pardew, because after this match he declared that he was fed up with the abuse he was getting off the fans, and he was. But we'd had a run of appalling results and didn't seem to be coming back from it. This win was not anticipated, but it was a good win. But it decided he'd had enough abuse from the Geordie faithful and was offered a job at Crystal Palace and took it. And I don't think there were many tears on Tyne's side, I have to say, but that was his last match. John Carver is appointed a temporary manager, with Steve Stone moving up the head coach. And let's see what that brings. So we're now at home to Burnley. Burnley, who we managed to get a draw with at Turf Moor, and the sides that go out are hardly changed. Annick still in goal because of the injuries to the other goalkeepers, and Woodman on the bench. Jamat, Taylor, Stephen Taylor, Colaccini, Dummett, Colback, Tiote, Sissoko, Perez, Rivier's back in because of a knock to Cissé, and Gouffran's out on the left. Burnley come with Eaton, Kieran Trippier, Shaquille Keane, me, who's still centre half for Brentford, I think, at the moment. Arfield, Jones, Marnie, Boyd, Barnes, and Ings, and same Danny Ings that's hang around in football now. I think with Norwich at the moment, but it's a good football game. Both teams seem interested in going for the result, and there's some interesting play. End-to-end stuff in the first half. Stephen Taylor gets a header from a corner to put 1-0 in the lead. Unfortunately, 4 minutes later, Paul Dummett gets a ricochet off his backside and gives Burnley an equaliser. 26 minutes, Jack Colback gets a nice drive from the edge of the area and makes it 2-1. So that's how it stays till half-time, and we go in at half-time 2-1 up. End-to-end stuff straight after the half-time whistle starts, and Ings on 66 minutes makes it 2-2. Sissoko gets a nice goal again from distance on 78 minutes to make it 3-2 to us, and everybody's thinking that that's how it's going to stay. But we hadn't banked on the Burnley midfielder called Boyd, who was a clever player. And on 86 minutes, he makes it 3-3. And that's how it stayed until the end of the game. But an entertaining game nonetheless. And we deserved the win, really, but we give it away in so many ways. And yet another game where there's lots of people booked, yet I don't remember it as being a dirty game. For them, me, Ings, Trippier of all people, Boyd, and then Jamat and Williamson for us. 6 people booked, and yet I don't even remember it as being a particularly hard game or tough game. We're then away to we Leicester City in the FA Cup third round, and again another cup draw that takes us away, which is a current theme for us, I think, even at this day and age. A number of games we get drawn away is just incredible. But we've taken Leicester before, and they're no better now than they were when we last played them. And we've had one or two decent victories, so we could give them a real game. So off we go, unchanged team. Sorry, no, that's not right. Jamat's injured, and Santon, the Italian fullback, comes in. David Santon comes in at right back for Jamat. Young Alex still in goal, and Woodman on the bench as the reserve goalkeeper. Otherwise, an unchanged team. Leicester have Harmer, Delete, Morgan, Moore, Konchesky, Knockhart, Cambiasso, James, Lawrence, Ulua, and Nugent. And Nugent is a dangerous centre forward, and usually gives us a tough time. Interesting game, some good football from both sides. Nobody can hit the net. They can hit the post, they can hit the bar, but nobody's hitting the net. Some good saves from Anik, one or two from their goalkeeper Harmer. But on 39 minutes, Ulua, their dangerous midfielder, scores a cracker of a goal from about 30 yards, which young Anik didn't even see, I don't think, and gives Leicester the 1-0 lead. After half time, we really give it a go. We really have a go at them, but we can't find the back of the net. And of course, substitutes for Leicester come on. And then a young man called Vardy comes on for Nugent, and starts to give us a bit of a run around at the back. He also makes his history in the sense that Vardy came on as a substitute, and before he'd even kicked the ball, he got booked for get a yellow card for a foul on Dummett. And he hadn't even touched the ball. So Jamie Vardy's always in the record book somewhere. Anyway, for Newcastle fans, it turned out a tough second half because there was no way we were going to score. And Leicester just shut the door and kept us out. So 1-0 defeat in the third round of the FA Cup, which is sad for Newcastle fans, always to go out of the FA Cup. Now we go to Stamford Bridge for the return match for Chelsea, who are now sitting pretty at the top of the league, well and truly. And we need to be on guard in this one because they are really playing well. Now, they'll also be sore because we turned them over at St James's Park and was their first defeat of the season, basically. So we go with the Krul back in goal. So we've got a strong team. Well, usual first team: Krul, Jamat, Colaccini, Williamson, Dummett, Sissoko, Anita, Colback, Cabela, Perez, and Gufman. And Chelsea come out with Cech, Petr Cech, Ivanovic, Zuma, John Terry, Azpilicueta, Matic, Fabregas, Willen, Oscar, Hazard, Costa. And quite a few of those names still playing football, of course. And they dangerous up front with Hazard and Oscar and Costa, and Fabregas, all in the same forward line. And we're getting a bit of a run around, but we're hanging on at our end. And it's just before half time. Oscar scores from a blinding shot from the edge of the box, 43 minutes, and they go in 1-0 with that 1-0 lead. I think most Newcastle fans are just happy it's 1-0 because we've been getting a bit of a run around. And second half is no starts in the same vein, with Chelsea really piling on the pressure and numbers of shots going in on Krul having a blinder and keeping us in this game. and everybody hoping that we might get a breakaway and get an equaliser. Well, the breakaway comes, but it's Costa for Chelsea who gets it. A long ball over the top, and he's onto it first and slides the ball under Krull, who played so well. It was the same that he was to be on the losing side. 2-0 loss to Chelsea, but I think a sigh of relief that we only lost 2-0 is the honest answer. Then we come home to a home game against Southampton, and well, we're hoping that we can revenge the 4-0 defeat that we had at their place, but it's possible because they're not pulling up any trees any more than we are. However, that's not how it works out. We 14 minutes into this game, and Elia has scored for Southampton. 29 minutes, and Gouffran has equalised for us, and it's but it's end-to-end stuff. Southampton are every bit as much in it as we are, and indeed, second half they take the match off us. For some reason, we seem to sit back and allow Southampton just to do what they like. Basically, it was a miserable second half. I remember it very much. And this guy Elia, who was their dangerous midfielder, was just taking the midfield apart. And of course, a young man called Ward Prowse was causing all sorts of difficulties from free kicks. And the kid Pellier, who'd scored a hatful of goals against us in the original game, was on song as well. So we were getting quite a tough time. And of course, Fraser Foster was playing out of his skin against his former club, against his hometown club. And 2-1, it goes to Southampton on 62 minutes. And that's how it stays till the end. I can't even say it was backs to the walls for Southampton because we didn't really threaten them that much, despite all the huffing and puffing. So a disappointing 2-1 loss, which again slides us the wrong way in the league. We're now away to Hull City, who are really bouncing along the bottom, and everybody's thinking they're going to be one of the ones to go down. And we really should be having a go at these. Well, I'm glad to say we do. We go and we have a real go at Hull, unchanged team, and Hull with names that still play now, and some names that we know from elsewhere. McGregor, El Mohammadi, who used to be with our friends at Stadium of Light, Dawson, Davis, Robertson, Ramirez, Livermore, Huddlestone, Mailer, Hernandez, and Jelavic. Jelavic, of course, a dangerous centre forward, and as was Hernandez. The Mailer that I've talked about, of course, the season before, he was notable because he had the touchline fracas with Pardew when Pardew was with us, which gets remembered. And he's back in the team. But we really have a go at Hull, and it's no surprise on 40 minutes when Cabela gives us a 1-0 lead, and we go in at 1-0 at half time, only wondering why it's only 1-0. Second half kicks off, and we're straight at Hull, and within 50 minutes, surely Amiobi heads from a corner to make it 2-0. And then on 78 minutes, Gouffran outruns everybody on the left side and scores a peach of a goal to make it 3-0. And from then on, it really is Hull getting a 1,000 off us, and they turn to a slightly dubious tactics, and then the net result is they end up with 5 bookings. Quinn, Mailer, El Homadi, Robertson, and Livermore all get booked. Anita gets booked for us, more for retaliation at one of the fouls that one of the others committed. So a 3-0 victory, which was a one which was nice relief, because we haven't had an away victory for a very, very long time. Then we're at home to Stoke City, who really had a miserable game with that at the Victoria ground. however, the teams that come are virtually the same teams that played each other at Stoke, with Bekovic, Bardsley, Whelan, Diouf, Stephen Ireland in their team, who used to be with us for a little while, Moses and Walter's a dangerous centre forward, and our team unchanged. It's 0-0 at half time, but it's not the best of games. There's not even a threat on goal. It's not as though Bergovic and Krull had been busy and making lots of saves. They weren't. It was a dismal 0-0 at half time. Second half, things brightened up a little bit, and really on the back of good work by Sissoko and Perez to start to trouble the Stoke defenders. And on 74 minutes from a laid back from a corner, Jack Colback makes it 1-0 for us, and we think that's it, and we've got it. But typical Newcastle, with a win in the bag, Stoke get a corner, and with Peter Crouch left almost unguarded, he makes it 1-1 on 90 minutes. They go home quite happy with the 1-1 draw, which should have been a victory for us. We really did give that away. The next game is an away game to Palace, who we've had some couple of interesting games this season already, and we go with one big change. Papi Cissé comes into the team, Abid drops out. For Palace, virtually unchanged from the teams that we've played already. Speroni, Ward, Delaney, Hageland, Kelly, MacArthur, Ledley, Punchin, Zaha, Kamaka, Sanogo. And it's an interesting game. We're doing quite well. We're taking the game to them a little bit, which is throwing them a little. And on 42 minutes, Papi Cissé repays for his recall and makes it 1-0 to us. And we go in 1-0 at half time. We're doing quite well to hold them out, but on substitutes are made, and Campbell goes on for Sanogo, and turns out to be that's a masterful stroke by their manager, because on 71 minutes Campbell scores a peach of an equaliser to make it 1-1. And that's how it stayed. End-to-end stuff, and near misses, but lots of near misses, which just don't translate into goals, and a bit of entertainment for the crowd, but a 1-1 draw, and a fair result, I think, is the best thing to say. Then the next game, we go away to Manchester City. And after the run of results we've had, one of the last places you'd want to be going is Manchester City. And from the off, Manchester City just tear us apart. There's no other way to describe it. 2 minutes Aguero with a ridiculous penalty given away by Colback. Aguero scores that penalty. 12 minutes, Nasri scores, dribbles the ball through, and then 21 minutes, Zeko, the big centre forward, from a corner gets an easy, unguarded header to make it 3-0. And that's how it stays at half time. So Magpie fans are praying for something better in the second half. Well, their prayers weren't answered, because if anything, City looked even more dangerous in the second half, with Navas coming on for Silva, Bonnie coming on for Aguero, and Lampard coming on for Nasri. They looked even better than they had in the first half. So it was no surprise on 51 minutes when Silva gets another goal, and then 53 minutes he gets his second, after which he's substituted. So 5-0 we are, and hanging on like grim death, so it doesn't get even worse than that. But a really, really bad defeat. We were really given a run around by Manchester City on that day, and unhappy is the only way to describe anybody anything to do with Newcastle United that day. We come home to home game against Aston Villa, who are playing a little bit better than us, a little bit higher in the league, but we've got to do something about the sequence of results we've had, particularly the heavy defeats. And we play an unchanged team. Cissy stays in because he's not injured. Aston Villa come with Guzan, Houghton, Okor, Clark, Lawton, Sinclair, Delph, Cleverly, Westwood, Agbon, Lahore, and Benteke, the centre forward they bought from Crystal Palace. And they're up for it. They're certainly having a go in the first 10 minutes, but then a couple of runs by Sissi and the defence is upset a little bit. And with from corners, Shola Miobi causing them all sorts of problems in the air. It's no surprise when on 37 minutes from a ball headed down by Shola Miobi to Sissi, it ends up in the back of the Villa net. So we go in 1-0 at half time. Second half, we really have a go at Villa, and their response is to start being quite hard and a bit over the top. But be that as it may, they can't get near the goal. And Guzan, their goalkeeper, is working very, very hard to stop us scoring more, particularly Cissy, given the real run around. And Villa get a bit tough, and Hutton, Loughton, Cleverly, Agbon, Lahore, Clark, and Bakuna all go in the book for Aston Villa. Williamson goes in for us. Sitting on the bench for Villa are names that we know: Grealish, who was just starting his career, Sanchez, Gill, and their reserve goalkeeper, of course, was Shea Given, who they just got from us. So a good 1-0 victory at home, and a big relief to everybody at St James's and the 52,000 who turned up to see them. I mean, we've had a really horrendous run of results, and yet we're still getting a full house. Next game is home game against Manchester United, and we want to try and pull back some of the torment that Rooney inflicted on us. And it's a hope. We go in with an unchanged team, as are Manchester United, with De Gea and Rooney and their shining stars giving us the run around. But we stick it out hard till half time. It's 0-0, and which is a surprise. We second half hold our own, and everybody's looking at their shoulder as to where Rooney is, but we stick it out, and everybody's hoping this looks like a 0-0 draw, a well-earned point against Manchester United. Then lo and behold, at a corner, we leave the young defender who'd just come on as a substitute, Young, on his own, and give him a gift goal from a header from the corner. So we, on 89 minutes, we give a goal away when we look like we'd get a hard-earned 0-0 against that Manchester United, much to the frustration of the 50,000 in St James's. But a valiant effort is the best thing you can say. We didn't give it away like we have in previous times. So the next game is an away game at Everton, who aren't that much better than we are, but let's hope we can do what we did at St James's and give them a real game. Well, we try in the first 15 minutes or so, but then on 20 minutes, McCarthy, their dangerous midfielder, gets a goal from a pass back from their centre forward, Osman, and from then on, we seem to melt. Everton just take the game over. We seem to just drop off and let things happen. And we're lucky to go in at 1-0 at half time at Goodison. The second half, we we fare a little bit better, but lo and behold, again, shoot ourselves in the foot with a ridiculous penalty given away by Stephen Taylor. And Lukaku's on for them and scores from the penalty spot. And we never going to come back from that, because we look like we've given up by then. And to rub salt into the wounds, we get to 93 minutes. The whistle just about to blow when a young man called Barkley, who's still playing, Ross Barkley, who even this season, last season when we played Luton, was giving us a bad time. Well, he scored in this game and made it 3-0, made it look much worse than it should have been. But a game we just never got into, and Everton deservedly won. We now have a home game against Arsenal, and we're going to have a tough one in this one, because they really did give us a shellacking when we went to Highbury. Went to the Emirates, rather. Showing me age saying Highbury. And we, the guy in the Gallagher corner was biting the nails. Well, with due reason, because within 24 minutes, Giroud at centre forward had made it 1-0, and in 26 minutes, the same Giroud had made it 2-0. So we went in at half time 2-0 down, and fearing what was coming in the second half. Well, as it happens, the team did pull together and give Arsenal a game in the second half. They didn't score, but neither did we. But at least, yes, we did. Sorry, we did. They sat back and just sat back once too often. And on the edge of the penalty area, the ball dropped to Sissoko, who volleyed into the top corner, fierce volley, to make it 2-1. Now, I'd like to say that it was backs to the wall for Arsenal for the rest of that game, but it wasn't. It was backs to the wall for Newcastle, because all the Sissoko's goal did was wake Arsenal up, and they came at us with all guns blazing. But we ended up with a 2-1 loss, which was, in the circumstances, wasn't too bad. But again, 51,000 at the game, which is tremendous for our fans to turn out like that. The Arsenal team: Ospina, Chambers, Palusta, Konchelski, Monreal, Ramsey, Colotrine, Sanchez, Cazorla, Welbeck, and Giroud. Quite a lot of names that's still in the game. Danny Welbeck, particularly, playing well for Brighton now at the moment. But at least we give them a go. We didn't get the sort of shellacking that we had at the match at the Emirates. And now it's the return of the derby game at the Stadium of Light, and everybody praying, double prayers, that we might get a result out of this. But it wasn't to be. It was another hard fought derby game with lots of stiff tackles and lots of near misses, but no goals for Newcastle United, I'm afraid. Our team: Krull, Ryan Taylor, Jalmat, Williamson, Colback, Sissoko, Gutierrez, Gouffran, Amiobi, Cabela, and Perez. And that's a reflection on how John Carver's trying to mix things up with the players. And the way he's some of his selections quite different to Pardew. But a sample of what sort of game it was is you just look at the bookings: Vergrini, Gomez, Van Aanholt, Wickham, Lawson, and Fletcher for Sunderland. So that's 3-6 for them, and Colback, Ryan Taylor, and Amiobi for us. So 9 bookings in the game, and sadly, end to end, couple of woodwork strikes. Then right on the stroke of half time, 45 minutes plus 1, it says here. That little man Defoe, who loved tormenting us, sneaks in on the blind side and gets a goal to send them in delirious at half time. We do give it a go in the second half, but we can't get an equaliser or do anything with it. But some good play and some rough play, but another loss to our deadly enemies, I'm afraid. And after a derby loss, one of the places you wouldn't choose to go would be Liverpool, because the chances of you getting something there are so remote. But that's where we've got to go to an away game against Liverpool. Unchanged team: Kroll, Taylor, Jermatt, Williamson, Colback, Anita, Belly, Sissoko, Cabela, Obertan, Perez. Liverpool: Mingale, Johnson, Khan, Lovren, Moreno, Allen, Lucas, Henderson, Abibi, Coutinho, and Sterling. Well, they're on song and they're slowly climbing up the league. They're not going to be winning the league this time, but they're slowly climbing up the league. Their results are getting steadily better, and they get off to a great start. 9 minutes, Sterling scores a peach of a goal. We hang on until half time, and it looks like we might actually have a go back, because there's some good play from the likes of Sissoko and Anita even, and Krull having a brilliant game in goal, and Perez coming close a couple of times. So it looks like we might even hang on to 1-0, but on 70 minutes, Allen, the dangerous midfielder, scores a peach of a goal and makes it 2-0. And so any hope of us going, getting something out of the game and getting back into it, almost gone, and finally killed off on 80 minutes when Sissoko stupidly retaliates to a foul and gets his second yellow card and gets sent off on 80 minutes. So we couldn't get back with 11 in. We're certainly not going to get back into the game with 10. Now have a home game against Spurs, who this season have given us a real runaround, and we're going to be after onward metal because they're playing well, and our team's unchanged from the one that went to Liverpool. Spurs have Vaughan in goal, Dyer, Fazio, Vertonghen, Rose, Paulino, Bentalab, Lamella, Ericsson, Chadler, and Kane. And from the kickoff, Spurs are at us and really giving us a tough time. And on half hour, it's no surprise when Chadley scores a peach of a goal to put them 1-0 at half time. After half time, we get hopes up when, minute after the half starts, Colback scores a peach of a goal from a corner of the area to make it 1-1. Everybody thinks, well, we're back in it, but not for long. 53 minutes, Ericsson scores a peach of a goal, and just to rub things in, Kane's on 90 minutes makes it 3-1. We can't say that they didn't serve that score, because they were that far ahead in terms of being a better team than us. That 3-1 couldn't be regarded as a surprise. So we now have a home game against Swansea to follow that home game, and everybody's desperate to see you win. I mean, bear in mind, we just had a Spurs of 50,000. Swansea come, there's still 47,000 in the ground, which speaks volumes for our fans. Our team's unchanged. Swansea come with their team of former stars as well as all stars: Fabransky, Amat, Williams, Rangel, Montero, Cork, Shelby, Sigerson, Dyer, Oliveiro, and Fernandez. And a good football inside. They're playing good football. We set off as though we're going to take this one by the horns and have a real go. And on 20 minutes, no surprise when Perez scores a peach of a goal to put 1-0 in the lead. Unfortunately, we go to sleep on just before half time at a corner, and Oliveira heads in on undefended goal from a corner to make it 1-1. Immediately after half time, Sigurdsson, the dangerous Icelander for Swansea, scores a peach of a goal on 49 minutes. And then on 71, Cork scores another good goal to make it 3-1. On 87 minutes, De Jong, who's just come from the Netherlands, comes on as a substitute and scores to make it 3-2. And it would be nice to say that it was backs to the wall for Swansea from then, but it wasn't. Swansea held on to that 3-2 victory with some ease, which was a bit disappointing. And yet another loss. And the palpable groans in the Gallagher corner, I have to say, when that happened. We now go away to Leicester, and our various trips to Leicester have had various results. Knocked us out of the cup, for example, and we go to Leicester with an unchanged team. Leicester have their one or two changes. They have the big centre half Huth that they've just got from Chelsea, and Morgan, Albrighton, Cambiasso, Schlupp. Vardy's in the team proper now. Mahrez, who is very, very dangerous on the left side and makes a big name for himself at Manchester City a little bit later on. Ulloa, and they have strengthened their side where ours has stayed the same, basically. The only change for us is that on the bench is De Jong now, that he's arrived from Holland. And it's gets off with a disaster. Lower in 11 minutes, in 1 minute rather, puts Leicester 1-0 in the lead. 17 minutes, Morgan makes it 2-0 to Leicester. And we don't look like we're ever going to come back from that. And we don't. 2-0 at half time. Second half starts, 3 minutes, and a ridiculous penalty given away by Taylor. And Ulloa scores his second goal from the penalty spot to make it 3-0. After that, it's a case of hanging on and trying to not make it any worse. And there's one or two tackles flying in to make that happen. So we end up with Jamat, Gutierrez, Dummett, Amiobi, Williamson getting booked. And 62 minutes, Williamson goes off for his second yellow card. 91 minutes, Jalmat goes off for his second yellow card, and we end up with 9 men. So a dismal match by any stretch of the imagination. Never mind just the loss. So we come home to a home game against West Brom. West Brom, who had been praised for the football that they're playing. Shouldn't bother us really, but we didn't quite get the result we wanted when we went there, and we end up with not an unchanged team. Sorry, slightly changed because Anita goes to right back, and because of injuries, and Cissé is back in the side because he's got over injury, and Amiobi on the bench as well. So we play in West Brom and 48,000 at the game, which is, again, it speaks volumes for the fans' support of the team. And West Brom are Myhill, Dawson, Macaulay, Olsen, Lescott, Gardner, Fletcher, Balumbu, Jacob, Brunt, and Ichibi, and playing really good football as they are. On their bench is Baird, who used to play for us, but doesn't get on the pitch. It's not a bad football game. We're playing quite well. Unfortunately, Anichebe turns it on its head a little bit with a breakaway goal on 32 minutes. And then, thank goodness, just before half time, Alios Perez scores one of these specials to make it 1-1 at half time. And we deserved that because we played quite well. Second half's good, but neither team could hit the back of the net. Don't think they could hit a barn door, never mind the back of the net. And it ends at 1-1. but a better game. At least we played a little bit better than we've been playing in recent weeks, because we just had a run of something like 8 defeats, which is unbelievable, but very believable if you're a Newcastle fan. And then we then have the next game is an away game to Queen's Park Rangers, who are down and out. Basically, we really should be having a go at them because they're relegated and with the poorest defence in the league. But it doesn't work out like that. First half is ours. We seem as though we're having a go, but QPR hanging on the game. And then because Riviere scores on 24 minutes and takes it in at 1-0. And then the second half, it's like this team swap dressing rooms because QPR suddenly become the team on the attack, and we're trying to defend for our lives. And Matt Phillips on 54 minutes makes it 1-1. Then Lenry for their dangerous attacker, Spanish attacker, scores to make it 2-1 on 61 minutes. And that's how it stays with this game. And then bottom of the league really does rub salt into the wounds. I've got to say it is just unbelievable that even at this stage we'll lose a game like that so badly to the team that's relegated, so badly relegated as well. And the last game of the season is home to West Ham, and again 52,094 at the last game of the season. In a game which had we lost, we would have been just above relegation. Incredible is the only way to describe it. Krull, Jamat, Colaccini, Wilson, Dummett, Sissoko, Anita, Colback, Gutierrez, Riviera, and Sissi. West Ham, Adrian, Jenkinson, Burke, Reed, Cresswell, Zong, Nolan, Coyote, Downing, Valencia, and Cole. But the game's ours. First half is end-to-end stuff with us pressing all the time. We can't get past Adrian in the West Ham goal. Second half starts and we're at them again. And on 54 minutes, Sissoko scores a peach of a goal to give a 1-0 lead. Then on 85 minutes, Gutierrez scores what was to be his last goal and last game for the club in many ways. A peach of a goal, and we get a nice end the season with a nice 2-0 victory. But it really was, I think, as I say, a season of upheaval is how the pundits described it, and it really was. I'm quickly looking for the league table because we ended up 15th. But Chelsea won it by a country mile. Chelsea 87 points. Manchester City was second with 79 points. Arsenal third on 75 points. And Manchester United fourth on 70 points. So Chelsea to be winning by that margin is an indication of how well they were playing. It was just, amazing that we were the team that beat them. They only lost 3 games, and one of them was to us, and we were playing terrible. We were 15th in the league on 39 points. Sunderland were 16th in the league on 38. And remember, they took 2 1-0 victories off us. That 6 points disappeared. They would have been in trouble. And then Aston Villa and down to QPR only got 30 points. But the telling thing for me is that QPR get relegated and their goals against is 73. And who's the worst after that? Newcastle United on 63. And after that, you've got to go to, 53, Burnley, who were relegated, the second team relegated, and Hull on 51 are the third team relegated. So season of upheaval was not a bad way to describe it. With Pardew gone and John Carver, of course, appointed as the full-time manager by now by Ashley, and to give us a season to look forward to the next year. But not one of our best seasons, in my view.
Great stuff as always, George. Thanks for your time. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks very much, and I hope all enjoy watching it. I've enjoyed doing it. Thank you.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join